In 1964, when I got out of high school, the minimum wage was $1.25 an hour, equal to 5 Liberty had 25-cent quarters. Remember that?
I remember.
Yeah.
Those same 5 25-cent Liberty quarters today are worth $15.
Which is
You
your
talk
minimum wage.
about the minimum wage of $1.25 in 1964, and you talk about what the minimum wage is today at $15. Silver maintained its buying power all those years. Went from $1.25 to $15. That's the storage of value when you talk about silver, keeping up with inflation, wage inflation.
Next item. For those who push for Illinois minimum wage increase, automation poses questions and challenges. By Dwight A. Weingarten. Illinois state minimum wage will rise to $9.25 an hour on January 1st, 2020, increasing for the first time in a decade. Really? Wow, in a decade. And to $15 an hour by 2025. But the struggle of low-wage workers and their political allies who fought for the increase face a seemingly steep obstacle: automation, robotics, and kiosk services. In the spring of 1964, civil rights activist Bob Moses spoke at Stanford University in an attempt to recruit students to join him in Mississippi to help register voters. Moses' words about organizing and human rights hold true some 55 years later. It will frame the struggle that achieved the $15 an hour minimum wage in Illinois. Click on Moses' words quoted in this speech to hear the original recording of the speech. All the questions about automation, all the questions about our schools, all the questions about our cities, what kind of cities will we have? All of these find their focus in the public eye in terms of some kind of civil rights demonstration or another. Bob Moses. Stand up, sit down, Chicago is a union town, said fast food workers and their allies as they marched to the McDonald's headquarters in the West Loop on October 4th, a month before Illinois would elect a new governor. Reverend William J. Barber II, a civil rights leader and national co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, came to Chicago for the march. The North Carolina organizers stood in solidarity with the workers as they held their demonstration for a $15 minimum wage and a union. The day was very powerful and very moving, said Leisha Townsend, 32. Wow. A McDonald's employee in Chicago who participated in the march and demonstration. 32 for McDonald's is, well, I guess it's not old anymore. It used to be. Illinois State Representative William Guzzardi, a Chicago Democrat, walked alongside the workers as they marched aptly from Union Park down West Randolph Street to the McDonald's headquarters, where Chicago police removed Guzzardi, Barber, and 50 others, issuing them citations. It was a memorable day for me, Guzzardi, in an interview this March, calling the grassroots movement for $15 an hour powerful and inspiring. Fast food workers and their allies rally at Union Park on Chicago's west side before marching to McDonald's headquarters. Congressman Jan Schakowsky, Democrat, Illinois, and Reverend J. Barber II joined the demonstration for a $15 an hour minimum wage and a union. The steps, they're all gaining national focus and beginning to bring the attention of the American people a wider cross-section of problems. The problem is whether we will be able to really find solutions, whether we will be able, if we find these solutions, to take the steps that might be necessary in the terms of the structure of our politics and economics to carry them through. If we're willing to take those steps, whether those steps can be carried through peacefully with some kind of minimum amount of real frustrations for millions of people, said Bob Moses. As Reverend Barber was dealing with the Chicago police that day, he was selected as the recipient of the MacArthur Foundation Genius Grant, worth $625,000 to carry his advocacy work nationally. While Barber barbers' work continues across the country. It was the local movement for an increased minimum wage that spurred state-level policy change. We really galvanized around $15 as the appropriate minimum wage for the state. I've been telling you $15 an hour for how long? About the last, since I've been on YouTube. I might actually pull the old the old article out that I marked up I would say damn near 10 years ago. That happened largely as a result of public organizing of grassroots movement building that insisted on 15 as the bare minimum for decency and a reasonable standard of living. A bill to increase the state's minimum wage passed both houses of the Illinois legislature in 2017 before the then Governor Bruce Raunour vetoed the bill. Raunour's defeat in the November election, Democrats in the State House reintroduced legislation to increase the minimum wage. This time, the legislation became law as the new Governor J.B. Pritzker, that's Penny Pritzker's brother, we'll see, signed the bill several weeks after taking office. The wage schedule increases for Chicago area and Illinois. Stage 1, January 1st, 2019, minimum wage in Chicago and Cook counties increases $1. Stage 2, January 2020, state minimum wage increases $1 to $9.25 an hour. Stage 3, January 1st, 2020, state minimum wage increases 75 cents to $10 an hour. Cook County increases to $1 to $13 an hour. Stages 4 through 7, minimum wage increases $1 each year on January 1st until January 2025, when the wage across the state is scheduled to reaches $50 an hour. The law mandates that the state's minimum wage increase approximately $1 per year until it reaches $15 an hour on January 2025. The increased wage does not mean the end of challenges or activism for those who fought for the wage increase. As the minimum wage increases, corporate costs rise. A 2017 study suggests that automation could jeopardize the security of many jobs. Guzzardi does not see the wage increase as the cause. Automation is happening no matter what. That I do agree. Irrespective of the minimum wage, I also agree. Guzzardi, the bill's House sponsor, says the increased wage will be transformational for people in Illinois, pointing to the shortcomings of automation. Townsend said, I don't think we're going to be fired or replaced by automated kiosks. The machine cannot interact with the customers. Don't you believe that shit, said Townsend, mentioning the relationship employees have with regular customers. Townsend, who has been active for the fight for $15 an hour for 3 years, sees organizing as the key. We come together as one, said Townsend, and eventually we will have our union. I think I'll stop there. Link will be in the description. Do with it what you will. This is part of global rebalancing. You basically the clip that I played at the beginning of the piece. The minimum wage. In fact, we're only half of what the living minimum wage is supposed to be. Like the man said, in 1964, $1.25 was the minimum wage. It was 5 silver quarters. Those 5 silver quarters are worth $15, which is the proper minimum wage if you're going to keep up with inflation. So basically, the United States has been masking third world wages for the past 50 years. I should say the past 30 years. Wages have not kept up with inflation. I remember a long time ago when I first started working, I was a 20-year-old guy, first started working at the first decent job. And the guy told me about when in the 60s, when they said they made $1.50 an hour. And he said, at the time, he said there was approximately the same buying power that he had. And I think at the time we were making, this is back in the 80s, I think we were making like $12 an hour or something like that, somewhere around there, working class wages, which is actually pretty good at the time. $12 an hour, and he said that $1.25 that he made, $1.50 that he made, and the same buying power that the $12 an hour to $15 an hour that we were making then, when adjusted for inflation. And basically the workers, the low-level workers, have fallen behind. So that's how come you have the low-level workers have to have food stamps and supplements and other kind of stuff to actually live and actually keep roofs over their head. And now that's increasingly becoming worse as the United States extracts more wealth out of the country. And when automation comes in, it's actually going to make it worse. But one thing he did say, in the minimum wage will have no impact on automation. They're going to have no automation no matter what. So if you're making $8 an hour, that's even too much. A robot is cheaper. And AI is infinitely much cheaper. Because the proper wage, if you want to be, truth be told, that's actually automation proof, is probably about $5 an hour. But who can live on that? Most of these guys that are right wing saying holding your own nuts, they'll have no idea how to construct a society or keep one together. You cannot have a society of individuals. It doesn't work that way. If society does not work for the individuals, there won't be a society. Every person that says that they want to be rugged individually, go try to live in the favela in Rio or some shit town in India. Or Guatemala City with 4 million people of poor folks. See how safe you feel. Costs a lot of money to have this kind of security and this kind of comfort. And you will pay the price if you want it. Because at the end of the day, it's not cheap. Safety and security is not cheap. A peaceful populace is not cheap. Disparate incomes causes crime and violence. Don't believe me? Keep up on the path that you're on and see what happens. You'll be living behind walled cities before long, within 10 years. But I've been wrong before. With that, I'll see you Cretans later. This is BGS out. I'll see you guys on the next one.